Hey friends, we're going to look at sine, cosine, and tangent on the unit circle. And so the very short, very quick history is that a long time ago when mathematicians were working on the unit circle, they started drawing triangles on it and looking at their angles and how it changed. And they found that the trig functions were directly related. So we'll be able to do sine, cosine, and tangent and use the unit circle to help us find those coordinates. So when we look at sine, it's always written as sin and then of whatever variable. In this case, it's going to be x. Sometimes it'll be of theta or things like that. But x, this thing, that's what we're going to be looking for. So we say sine of x, and that's sine. Now, friends, we'll always write sin, but don't say sin. Okay, it's always sine of x. And the sine of x is always going to be the y coordinate of your point. And then we have cosine, and we always will write it as the cos, but we'll always say cosine of x. That's going to be the x coordinate of your point. And then tangent, we'll always write tan, but we'll always say tangent. Well, that's going to be the sine of x over cosine of x. So you might have to do a little bit of more work with that. And that also means that that may create a domain issue for us because there are definitely some times where your domain will be undefined. And that happens when you have 0 in the denominator. So remember, you can never divide by 0. That's never going to change. So if your cosine ever ends up being 0, then your tangent will be undefined. So when we're finding sine, cosine, and tangent of x, the x is going to represent the distance that you walked on the unit circle. Oh boy, come on. So we're going to look at these examples here. And what we're going to do is I'm going to look at this little side unit circle and just fill in our 4-star players. So if you've seen the unit circle before, then you know that there are plenty more than 4-star players. But for the purpose of our beginner and our intro lessons, we're only looking at these 4-star points so that we can get used to moving around them. So what we know is that you always start at our coordinate 1, 0, and that is also just represented as 0 for us. And then we're going to start moving counterclockwise, and our first stop is going to be at 0, 1, which we also know as pi over 2. And then if we keep going, then we'll get to negative 1, 0, which we also know as pi. And then our third stop will be 0, negative 1, which we also know as 3 pi over 2. And then if we finish off our circle, we end up back at 1, 0. And since we've gone all the way around, then we know that that also represents 2 pi. So when we look at our first example and they ask for sine of pi, they are asking us to walk to pi and then tell the y coordinate. So sine of pi, they are giving you instructions. So go to pi. So here's 0, no problem. And I'm going to walk all the way around and stop at pi. So here's pi. And that famous coordinate point is going to be negative 1, 0. And they want sine of pi. And what we know is that sine of pi is the y coordinate. So the y coordinate is 0. So we'll say sine of pi equals 0. Okay, so then when they say cosine of pi, again, they're saying walk to pi, and then you're going to tell us the x coordinate. No big deal. So here I am walking to pi, and the x coordinate is going to be negative 1. So cosine of pi is negative 1. And now tangent of pi is going to be sine of pi divided by cosine of pi. Well, we just did that. So if we look up, we know that sine of pi was 0, cosine of pi was negative 1, and you don't leave it like that. What is 0 divided by negative 1? Well, that's just 0. So then tangent of pi is 0. So friends, just real quick in terms of the 0 and fractions. So I like to say 0 at the top, that's okay. 0 at the bottom, that's a no. So that's one way you can remember. Because whenever you divide by 0, no, no, friend, that'll be undefined. All right. And then our last little set here. Well, almost. I'm going to give you a chance to do this. So let's just talk about how do we get to pi over 2. So again, sine of pi over 2, we're counting by pi over 2's. So 0, this is 1 pi over 2, 2 pi over 2, excuse me. Let's do 1 pi over 2. We know that's 2 pi over 2, which is pi. And then 3 pi over 2, 4 pi over 2, which is 2 pi. 5 pi over 2, 6 pi over 2. Here's 7 pi over 2. So now that we identified where 7 pi over 2 is, I want you guys to pause the video and go ahead and see if you can figure out what is sine, cosine, and tangent. So pause the video because when I come back again, we're going to have the answer. All right, so sine of pi or 7 pi over 2. So when I ended up at this famous spot here, we had to go ahead and label that as 0, -1. So sine is the y coordinate, so you should have told me -1. Cosine of 7 pi over 2, the coordinate point is 0, -1, and the cosine is the x coordinate, so you tell me 0. And now tangent is going to be sine of 7 pi over 2 divided by cosine of 7 pi over 2. And we just saw that sine was -1, cosine was 0, and you said, no, no, friend, I can never divide by 0. So then my tangent of 7 pi over 2, we're going to say that that is undefined. Okay, now our last set, for real. Okay, so now they want us to go in terms of our numbers. And so sine, cosine, and tangent of 1. All right, no problem. This is 0. I know up here is 1.57. So I have to estimate 1. And so we know that if we're going from 0 to 1.57, that's really like 1.5. So I can split that up into thirds. And so this would be like 0.5 and like 1. So again, notice how it just says estimate. I'm estimating here, so I don't have to be exactly at 1. I don't have to stress too much. It's all good. So halfway here, that's about 0.5. Halfway up is 0.5. So what would this coordinate point be? So if I go straight down and straight across, then I am at about 0.5, comma 0.8. And now I'm ready to go ahead and find sine, cosine, and tangent. So sine is the y coordinate. So I went to 1, and then the y coordinate is 0.8. So just equals 0.8. Cosine is the x coordinate. So the x coordinate is 0.5. And our tangent is going to be sine of 1 divided by cosine of 1. Well, we just did that. So sine was 0.8. And then cosine was 0.5. And depending on your instructor, they may ask you to just leave it that way. So for my course, we don't use calculators yet, so we would just keep it that way. But if you have a calculator, then you would just divide it. You can divide it by hand too, and you get 1.6. No problem. And for our last set of examples, no, you are not crazy. I did just change the numbers because it should have been 8, not 7. So, little typo. Sorry. If you're in my class, you know that that's not rare, but sorry. I am human. So, here we go. Let's do sine, cosine, and tangent of 8. So, how about I pause it here? How about you pause it and you try it all on your own, and then I'll go over it in a couple of seconds. So, pause the video. Okay, here we go. So we're going to walk around in circles. So we got 0, 1.57, 3.14, 4.71, 6.28. We have to keep walking and add another 1.57. That takes us to 7.85. Okay, that's close enough because I'm trying to get to 8. So it's only 0.2 away. So that's going to be super close. Uh-oh. Come on, there we go. Super close to that 7.85. So here I go. Let's see where we are. Do, 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 whoop, 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 and a whoop, whoop. So on my x-axis, that looks to be about 0.2. I'm going to put it over here. So negative 0.2, and then that's definitely a 0.9. That's super close. All right, coolsies. So sine of 8. So go to 8, I did, and the sine is the y coordinate. So that'll be 0.9. Cosine of 8, that's the x coordinate, so negative 0.2. And tangent of 8 is going to be sine of 8 divided by cosine of 8. So that's 0.9 divided by negative 0.2. And again, if you're in no calculator class, you leave it right there. No need to move forward. If you're not, then you would go ahead and divide it, and you would get negative 0.5. Excuse me, just kidding. Negative 4.5. Doop, doop, doop. And just so you feel like I didn't leave you out in the cold here, if you needed to divide, you say top dog in the house, and then 0.2. And you don't divide by decimals. So what you would actually do is move this decimal over to the right one. And if you move that over to the right one, you have to move that one to the right one. So you end up with just 2 divided by 9. So 2 divided by 9. 2 goes into 9 4 times. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Add a decimal. 2 goes into, just kidding, that's a 0. 2 goes into 10 5 times. So there's your 4.5. All right, friends. That's it for now. So I hope that that was helpful.